All right. Good morning. Welcome to the 18th session of the Entrepreneur Tech Talk. Well, just repeating the notion again. I think most of you are have been there since the very beginning or have joined somewhere midway. So most of you know, but just for the new participants, we started with TEG last year in July when we started Mr. Ramanathan ji in the opening session. And how it started is that Mr. Praveen Mallaji was leading the startup and entrepreneurship special interest group of IIT Bombay Alumni Association, and I took over from him in May. And we came up with this notion where we could create a platform for alumni, non-alumni, young entrepreneurs from IIT Bombay or outside who would benefit from some kind of synergies or some kind of mentorship from the veterans and from the opportunities that exist out there. And we started with this notion of the Entrepreneurship Gyan to have talks where we will invite people like we have already had Kamal Rekhi ji, we had Professor Saraswati. Today we have Professor Santosh with us, so that people can have their learnings, their gyan from the opportunities that exist out there, from the veterans or from bodies like SINE, which is there at IIT Bombay. And that was the idea. We started in July last year. Now today is January 2025. It has been more than a year now. This is the 18th session. We tried to keep up the pace, and somehow we have managed to do that. Now we are the tribe of 2,500 plus people. We just crossed 2,500 plus people registrations, and even on our WhatsApp group we have around 1,000 people in the WhatsApp community that we have. So it's a pretty active platform where people come, people discuss things, people look for opportunities, people look for synergies, and that's the whole idea of this notion of the entrepreneurship camp. And now I'll invite my co-host Rishi, who is joining us from San Francisco. It's pretty early morning, to introduce Professor Santosh, and then we will take it from there. To you, Rishi.
Hi everyone, I'm Rishikesh, IIT Bombay 97 batch. Really, it's my pleasure to welcome the professor for today's talk. So let me introduce him. First of all, SINE, Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, is an umbrella organization at IIT Bombay for fostering entrepreneurship and nurturing tech startups. Big change from my time when there was no such thing when I graduated. It administers a business incubator which provides start to scale support for technology-based entrepreneurship and facilitates the conversion of research activity into entrepreneurial ventures. Set up in 2004, it is one of the earliest incubator in academia with the potential to create startups focusing on economic growth, strategic value, and social relevance. It gives prototyping grants, provide incubation support to tech startups, and also runs accelerator programs in corporate partnerships. SINE has been selected as Center of Excellence by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, with funding support to scale up its activities. So, to Professor Santosh Gharpure, he graduated with an MSc degree in 1996 from IIT Bombay. He obtained PhD from ISC Bangalore, working with late Professor A. Sri Krishna in 2001. He held a postdoctoral position with Professor P. Andrew Evans at Indiana University. Subsequently, he joined the Department of Chemistry, IIT Madras, in Chennai in the year 2004. In 2012, he moved to the Department of Chemistry back at IIT Bombay as an associate professor and was promoted to professorship in 2016. Currently, he holds the position of Rasiklal Himani Fragrance and Flavor Chair Professor. He is also the professor in charge of SINE. His research focuses on organic chemistry pertaining to natural and unnatural product synthesis and developing new synthetic methodologies. He's also working on problems relevant to industries from different domains. Dr. Gharpure is a recipient of INSA Medal for Young Scientist. He was awarded IIT Madras Young Faculty Recognition Award YFRA for his contribution in teaching and research in 2010. He received B.M. Birla Science Prize in Chemistry for the year 2011. He was selected as one of the TEG Chemistry Journal awardees for the year 2013. I'm not sure if I got that pronounced wrong. IIT Bombay conferred on him the Excellence in Teaching Award in the year 2015 and Departmental Award of Excellence in Teaching in 2019. He was selected as Themis Medicare UICT Diamond Jubilee Distinguished Fellow in Pharmaceutical Science for the year 2015 and 16 of ICT, Mumbai. He was selected for the award of Chemical Research Society of India Bronze Medal in 2018. He is member of International Advisory Boards of European Journal of Organic Chemistry, Tetrahedron, and Tetrahedron Letters. He is a Fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry and was awarded INSA Teacher Award in 2021 by Indian National Science Academy, New Delhi. Here with you, take it away, Professor Santosh Gharpure. It's a pleasure to welcome.
Thanks, Rishi, for those kind words of introduction. Thank you, Vaibhav, for kind invitation, and it's always wonderful to connect with the fellow colleagues. As you notice, that I'm also coming from IIT Bombay. We were just reminiscing about which hostels we were in, and some of us also shed a tear or two because our hostels don't exist anymore in the form that we stayed there.
Hostel 7 and Hostel 8,
yeah. But something wonderful is coming up there, so no complaints, right? The new has to give, the old has to give way for the new. So today, as was pointed out, I'll talk more what I joke about, like my administrative hazard. That is, I'm a chemist, but administratively I have to look after SINE. But it is not a place where I find completely out of place because I myself come from a small family business background from village. So I used to always joke about this that I don't understand the jargon sometimes, but dando janu chu. So let me walk you for the benefit of people. Many of us, like what Rishi pointed out, that he was not aware of entrepreneurial systems like SINE because it didn't exist then. And same was the case with me when I graduated probably a year before Rishi in '96. There was no SINE existing that time. In fact, all the way till turn of the century, entrepreneurship and startups were not buzzwords in academic sector, at least within Indian context. And I can say that very confidently because I did my PhD also in India in IISc. And in fact, IISc was even further away in those days from entrepreneurship, even though they also had their, if I remember correctly, SID coming around that time, but not like the way at least IIT Bombay took the lead. So I'll very briefly touch upon, because there are a lot of alumni here. Some of you may be able to connect with the milieu in what context SINE got formed and how we have come all the way to today. So SINE was formed to foster an ecosystem within IIT to support innovation and knowledge-based entrepreneurship, right? So that was the motivation. We are the technology business incubator of IIT Bombay. If I were to look at what is the basis for our incubation idea, like what was pointed out, it's economic growth, the social impact, and strategic value. Now, whenever people talk about incubation, we always talk about economic impact. But being an academic sector incubator, we always have to be mindful that we also have to look at ideas which may not be directly making sense at that point in time from an economic growth perspective, but they may be of strategic value from the country's perspective, or maybe have social impact. So maybe strategic value, I will talk about an example during the conversation. So this idea of entrepreneurship actually started, what I understood from my predecessors is because of a couple of our alumni. One of them was a speaker here, Kamal Rekhi, and Nandan Nilekani. They reasoned with the leadership of that time. I'm talking about towards end of 20th century, beginning of 21st century, that our students are excellent employees in various organizations across the globe, but can we not make them also job givers rather than just the job seeker? And that is the idea which was seeded in the leadership of that time. Uh, and then a pilot was ran, and that pilot ran probably from 2000 to 2004, and around 13 companies were formed, startups were formed that time, and then many survived, and a few thrived. That gave institute confidence that such an activity actually is possible within the academic setup like IIT Bombay. And that's where SINE in 2004 was incorporated as a society. Uh, we are IIT Bombay's technology business incubator, but to give the kind of freedom that is required uh, in academic setup, doing business sort of an activity, it was formed as a society rather than just a department or unit of IIT Bombay. Obviously, there was nothing, like I said, of that type in the country. Academic sector incubators were hardly one or two, and they didn't even have processes because everybody was grappling in the dark. And that's when initial decade, I would say that we actually spent formalizing the processes, institutionalizing the activity, the business model for an incubator, which will be self-sustaining, working with the government programs, what should be the structure, what should be the nature of that engagement. And I must tell you that DST was the first body from the government which actually supported formation of SINE along with the IIT Bombay, which also created some sort of corpus that time for SINE. The next decade, though, after initial decade where we established, we got few companies incubated. In 2014 to 19, if I take the next 5 years after the first decade of SINE, we started seeing exponential growth on multiple counts. The entrepreneurship ideas started taking root in the country and in the academic sector as well. Government started putting in a lot of support on the entrepreneurship space. And it was almost like I can say that we probably doubled what we had done in the first 10. And then the next five, if I look at it, 2019 to present, we expanded facility significantly, scaled up the number of startups. Again, uh, if not completely doubled the number, but pretty close to that. Uh, we are even talking about creating a fund, like a venture capital fund equivalent within the SINE to help our startups. So that is something which we are trying to look at as one of the ways, as one of the added offering, and maybe we can elaborate that later on. We are still in the process, not done there. But that's the kind of a growth that we are looking at in SINE. That's the kind of thing that we are looking at in the SINE journey. So nascent incubator all the way to incubator with the full offering. Uh, of course, as was pointed out, we have been recognized as the center of excellence by the DST for becoming one of the incubators with the solid processes. And many a times government departments which come up with this entrepreneurship program, and then I will elaborate later on. We work with pretty much every government which has startup program more or less. SINE becomes some sort of a template for any new incubator, according to many government bodies that they recommend that you talk to SINE or follow their template, follow their kind of thing, right? So just to give you a sense of what we do, pretty much what an incubator does, right? We come in the game at a very early stage. Now, again, to give you a sense that when we started, we were largely IIT Bombay focused incubator, wherein the research will be happening in the lab, or some of the students will be tinkering their ideas in the undergrad labs or the research laboratories of a prof. And they will come in incubator seeking support at a very early stage many a times, right? So we call it pre-incubation, where they still are grappling with proof of concept, and we support them in the form of grants or fellowship, so that they can continue that motivation, continue to work on the idea which can lead to the startup. But science real role is providing the incubation support, and it could be physical or virtual, and I'll elaborate what do I mean by physical or virtual in a second. And then we also help them accelerate in certain situations through a programmatic approach in certain scenarios where they can quickly go to the market, reducing the journey and so on. So we work largely in incubation and also at times at pre-incubation as well as the acceleration. And this is done through partnership programs with government primarily, but of late, a lot of industry collaboration is also happening, which is geared towards supporting entrepreneurial ideas. And incubator becomes a good partner even for industry to work with when they want to look at some early stage ideas, open innovation programs, and so on and so forth. What we provide to the startups, obviously the infrastructure, the office space, access to the lab. Over the last decade, after we started working with government departments for their programs, we opened up for uh, non-IIT Bombay students and other researchers. So long as they bring a good idea which is technology based, we are able to provide the incubation support. So those who are coming from outside also can get the office space, they can get the access to the labs provided they are incubated with us. We bring in the funding support. That is a very typical requirement from the startup point of view. And today, this funding is available in the form of grants, seed funds, angels, VCs. Even banks are having MOUs with us where they can provide working capital support, typically without collaterals. Uh, so those kind of funding support also is coming because of the incubator intervention. Mentoring, of course, very, very important activity. From the startup perspective, we do a lot of boot camps, we do coaching, workshop, training sessions. Uh, and then any support that startup may require. You will appreciate that IIT faculty members, for example, will be good with the technology part of it. The students who are working with them in research labs, they may be good with technology, but they may not have necessarily the business acumen on day one. They may not have understanding of the regulatory maze that they will have to navigate. And any support that may be required for these startups, whether it is legal, IP, finance, all those kind of support, they just approach SINE team, and SINE makes the right connection for helping these people. Obviously, one of the things that startup require is visibility. So we do conduct a lot of investor meets, demo days, events, media coverage. We have international connects with different universities, different programs. With Switzerland, for example, we had AIT program where the cohorts from Switzerland as well as from India worked in this academia industry training program. Uh, this was a boot camp essentially, and then the entrepreneurs could get exposure to each other's ecosystem. With in Canada and Taiwan, we have ecosystem activity where we give exposure to ecosystem, whereas in Taiwan, we have connects with the manufacturing, Taiwanese Manufacturing Association, because some of our startups may require support on that side. So we have those kind of connects. Manufacturing and design support. If we look at mentorship and investors as well as industry connect, we have significant presence today with industry integrating with the IIT and internal also integrating with the incubator in providing support wherever it is required, along with mentors and investors. So basically what incubator does is brings in the value added support. And this particular slide essentially kind of gives you an overview of what I mentioned just now. The science support could be in the form of IP clinics, branding. We have our own boot camp called Science Start. And we also have our own platform where we bring in the investors, mentors, and the incubating companies and entrepreneurs on a single platform where the idea exchange can happen, the connects can be faster, and that's called Signage platform. It's an invitation-only platform, and that brings in all the stakeholders on a single platform so that people will be able to get the support at a much faster clip. That's the kind of idea with which the team is working. This probably is the most important slide in terms of science contribution. SINE over the years, like I was elaborating, has worked with many government programs. We have supported 1,000 plus entrepreneurs. And out of these 1,000 plus entrepreneurs, which are from within and outside IIT Bombay, 254 startups are incubated in SINE. So when I say 254 startups, these are the ones which are which are the companies which are incubated in SINE. I'm not counting the entrepreneurs who have started their companies after going through science program, but have incubated outside because they might have come in some government program and then they have gone back to the geographies where they were. So I'm not counting that. Uh, we have about 89 current companies. Close to 100 companies have graduated. When I say graduated, what we mean is support is for about 3 to 5 years. Typically three, but now with a lot of healthcare startups coming in, we extend that support for a slightly longish duration because they require a lot of regulatory clearances, which can be time consuming at times. Uh, so after that, they move out of the incubator. Either they survive, sustain, thrive, or they fold up. And we have our own share of failures. About 52 companies have folded. 14 companies were merged or acquired. So I won't call them failures because somebody else saw value in them. But 52 folded companies, if I look at it from a global average point of view, that's like 20% failure versus what normally in globe we'll find it's the other way around. Maybe 20% companies probably survive. So science intervention is able to reduce the mortality of the startup. And that was one of the key objective when SINE was started because people didn't have this confidence that leaving secured job of student wanting to do entrepreneurship, you want to reduce the failure probability. So that mandate SINE has definitely lived up. But not just that, the startups have also done well in terms of raising funds. So if I were to look at it, SINE has been a very frugal investor in the startups. So over the years, we have put about $5 million in these startups. But what is important is for every rupee that SINE has put in the startup in turn could raise about 190 rupees of risk capital. So they have raised close to 8,000 crore or $950 million at a collective valuation of about 29,000 crores or 3.5 billion. Obviously, this valuation is slightly skewed because we boast of a unicorn in our portfolio, Gapshup. Uh, First unicorn from an academic sector incubator. We also boast of first IPO coming out of an academic sector incubator. And then these startups have generated 300 odd IPs. About 50 of those are coming out of IIT Bombay itself. And then they have in turn generated 10,000 plus employment, which is very important from a country's perspective. Mind you, these are all typically product-based ideas, unlike simple marketplaces or a simple app type of idea. No, app will be an interface at some point, but our idea support, our bias is, if I may call it that way, is more largely towards product-based ideas. Uh, when I say that, I must tell you that we are sector agnostic. It should be technology-based idea. It can be coming from any sector. Interestingly, in an engineering institute incubator, you will find that 25% of our portfolio is largely towards healthcare, medtech, biotech. And this is a very interesting kind of observation or numbers. I will probably elaborate on it during Q&A. If you feel amused that how come healthcare dominates an engineering institute. Obviously, other sectors are represented as well, whether it's ICT, clean tech, hardware, fintech, robotics, education. All the sectors are represented. So we are pretty much sector agnostic. So long as the technology is involved, we are interested and excited about those ideas, basically. Those of you who are listening to IIT related information first time, you may be surprised today that from the time when we were students, numbers used to be maybe 2-3 thousands. Today we have close to 14,000 students on roll, about 40% undergrads and 60%, close to 60% postgraduates. Why am I highlighting this number? Is to kind of underline that research has become a very, very focused activity in IIT Bombay. It doesn't mean that it doesn't take away from our enthusiasm for undergraduate teaching. It just tells you that There is a lot of funding coming in for research part, and research is primarily being done by the masters and PhD students. I think close to 350 plus, 3,500 plus PhD students are there on the campus. So you can imagine magnitude of research. Close to 50 department centers, center of excellences, collaborative units which are there, where 750 plus full-time faculty members are there. And then, of course, we have visiting and adjunct faculties, part-time faculties, which will number about 100. So it's a very vibrant ecosystem when it comes to research, and it's reflected in the type of ideas that flow in the entrepreneurship side, in the startup side. So what we do is connect IIT Bombay startups with the outside world where they need support beyond IIT Bombay, but also connect the outside startups who come in and want to leverage IIT Bombay's ecosystem with the internal ecosystem as well. So from a country point of view, I think it's a win-win because we are able to utilize full potential of IIT Bombay for the growth of this particular ecosystem. Very quickly, I will give you few success stories. Uh, the first unicorn, what I mentioned from an academic sector incubator, was rightly our alumni, Birut Seth and Rakesh Mathur, who founded Gupshup. Uh, I don't have to elaborate, probably it's a AI-powered conversational messaging platform for enterprises, kind of WhatsApp for businesses is what I'm told. You can think of it. Uh, this is basically students, serial entrepreneurs. They turned out to be later on going through SINE, starting company, making it big, in the long run. And this is another success story where, again, our alumni, Idea Forge. This is a very interesting story because when they started their journey, drone as a sector in India was perhaps, it won't be exaggeration to say that it was non-existent. Drones were more fancy ideas which were to be shown in movies like Three Idiots, perhaps. That was their claim to fame at that point. But what was interesting is their unmanned aerial vehicle, as it was called, or what we call drone today, went on to win Army Challenge in the tender process. They won against marquee names like Tata Defense, some Israeli firms, and their drone was delivered. They won the tender, they delivered the drones, got the repeat orders, and today they are a listed company. Again, first IPO from an academic sector incubator. So it's a fascinating story of our alumni going places, and this is within our own IIT Bombay fold, going on to do great things. But again, the point I wanted to highlight was we supported them when drones were not fashionable, and it won't be exaggeration to say that these guys have essentially Ankit, Rahul, Ashish. They have created an industry which is kind of a domain in its own right within the country's context. So almost created an industry for the country, in some way. Here is another idea where Professor Kiran Kundabagil, his postdoc Anirvan, were doing research in the laboratory on the genomic side of it. They came up with this particular state-of-the-art genomics technology where they can provide accurate, personalized clinical stories, clinical decisions, basically, right? So when I was talking to Anirvan recently, he was kind of joking about it that if we get the right set of samples, we can almost give a kundali of a person or horoscope of a person from the uh, biology point of view, what kind of disease progressions are likely to happen. So that's the kind of deep tech science that people are working on. Uh, Many of these ideas obviously have gone to the market already. This is another interesting story where research out of IIT Bombay lab going all the way to the marketplace making change. Professor Rahul Purwar and Atharva Karulkar, who is his PhD student, they were working with CAR T cell therapy for the blood cancer treatment. So they incubated company in SINE, collaborated with Tata Memorial Hospital, did phase one, phase two clinical trials, got the CDSCO, which is FDA equivalent in India, approval for their treatment for patient care. Last year, Honorable President of India, Draupadi Murmu ji, she dedicated this technology to the nation. They have treated more than 300 patients the last time I checked with them, maybe 2-3 months back. So that number would have gone up significantly now. Their aim is to bring the cost of this therapy to 1/10 of what commercial product available in US, for example, will be, which will push you back by a few $1 million, if not much higher. I think no, not few million. I think it is about 500,000 or slightly less. So this cost is brought down significantly to almost 60-70%. When it scales, it will come down to 90% of the cost. So those are the kind of ideas that people are working on. There are many such examples. Cogno AI is basically cloud communication as service, IU devices converted a age-old stethoscope into smart stethoscope, and so on and so forth. Many other companies, Babelbot, InSpaceity, so company working kind of auto rickshaw in space, if I may call it that way, right? InSpaceity, promoted by one of the faculty colleagues in mechanical. Such labs, which is Fitbit for business, Fitbit for home appliances, and so on. Let me briefly, in next 2 minutes or so, just cover how alumni are contributing in this particular journey of entrepreneurs to the startups through SINE. Institute actually contributed in a big way in last 2 years. 24 crore was awarded. This was first time in 20 years of SINE existence that IIT Bombay actually gave also the cash support for the startups through IOE funding. But alumni kind of matched that they were the catalyst before even institute came on board. 1970 batch through translational research accelerator funding support started supporting startup faculty-led startups particularly, and they also work very closely with these startups because these are faculty-led initiatives. They do a lot of handholding as well to alleviate pain points for them. Project Titanium, which is again an alumni initiative, Rajesh Jain and Ramesh Mangaleshwar, they have come together to help with capital and co-founder support for the faculty-led initiatives again, for supporting the startup ideas coming out of the research labs. And 96 batch also, which is my batch, coincidentally, supported entrepreneurship by way of grants and to startups and innovators. So that's a program which again is implemented through SINE. So alumni, apart from working as mentors, apart from working, helping startups to bring in customer access or funding support, have also been working with SINE to bring in support on multiple dimensions. So SINE is always grateful to alumni support from that point of view. Institute has its innovation council. Again, our alumni are always, one or two alumni are members of this particular council. And what is important is this council brought in change in the processes which catapulted IIT Bombay as top institution in the entrepreneurship side of the ranking with the government of India as well. And SINE was kind of recognized for its contribution in this particular journey. SINE has its own facilities which are accessible for the startups as well as the community at large. Like I said, we work with most of the government bodies, right from DST, DBT, Ministry of Power, Ministry of Defense, so on and so forth, corporate bodies as well, and on multiple points, whether it is CSR, whether it is open innovation projects, and then even bodies which influence the decision making or have their funding through VCs or VC-like platforms. So we work with all these partners very closely. So that is all that I wanted to kind of share with you, and then hopefully I've stuck to the time, and then I'll be happy to take any questions, further elaborate on the points which I didn't during the talk, and take the questions further. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Professor Santosh. Of course, very informative talk because there are both alumni and non-alumni. So, accordingly,
Okay,
they have their questions.
sure.
Yeah. And
So
to
should I
let
stop
everyone
sharing?
know, yeah, please stop sharing. We will just have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
discussion. All right. So just to let everyone know that we also have with us Mr. Shaji Varghese, who is the CEO of SINE with us. Whatever questions you have, of course, it will go to Professor Santosh, but we also have the CEO with us. So, whosoever is the right person to answer in the direction, they'll answer. So don't worry about the questions. Keep putting any questions that you may have, and we'll take it from there. All right. Thanks for the fantastic talk, Professor. And there are a lot of questions, in fact. But let me start with the first one, which is by Narayan Sekar, who is an alumni of IIT Bombay from Hyderabad. His question is on how can SINE support, in the startup companies in the pharma industry, and that is one. Another is in the web application development. I think both are very different industries that he have asked together in a question, and I think his question is on connecting with buyers, innovators, and industry experts. So, Professor Santosh, either you or Shaji, who can take it? Yeah, perfect.
So since you mentioned about pharma, being organic chemist, I can definitely start and then ask Shaju to jump in, right? So basically, if you look at it, pharma side ideas, if you're talking about manufacturing, obviously SINE is not geared up for the providing support on the manufacturing side of it. Unless you are working on something which could be, quite different, fundamentally new, like what Immunoact example I gave, Rahul Purwa, which was on CAR T cell therapy. So it was not a run-of-the-mill chemical company, but rather patient care through technology and intervention, so to say. But we do have small setup coming up in SINE in the lab where we will have few fume hoods where chemical suit will be available. At a very early stage in the game, we may be able to support it. But the moment you scale up, until we further expand SINE facility, on the direct pharma side, if you're talking about tram type of models or those kind of ideas, it may not be directly feasible for that. Shaji, you want to add something further? You're mute.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Yeah, now I got unmuted. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
I
perfect.
think, Professor, you covered I mean, if you are specifically talking about pharma manufacturing per se, where there is no IP element involved, yes, we will not be able to kind of support in any way. But if you are talking about drug discovery or using tech for accelerating the drug discovery process, maybe something that could be of interest to SINE, because what we essentially kind of look forward to any startups to whom we provide incubation support, there should be a strong IP element involved in that.
All right. Thank you. Rishi, please.
So the next question is from Anupam Yadav. He's asking, what are the viable funding options available for hardware-focused startups?
See, basically, if we look at various hardware-focused start ideas, prototyping grants are available. The one that comes to my mind is DST Nidhi Prayas, where SINE is a partner in that. It's a project management unit. So there, for developing a prototype, funding is provided. That is one funding opportunity. Under the IOE funding scheme, we also had support. The only limitation of IOE funding was that it was meant only for IIT Bombay student, faculty, and alumni or staff. They had to have IIT connection in the team. But other than that, all the government programs, I think MIT has prototype grant support. IDEX also has, but IDEX is slightly more advanced. Is it not, Shadi?
Yeah, so a different kind of category for that. I mean, for a very early stage, funding goes up to 25 CR under IDEX program. So, I mean, if you from a full funding perspective, if you look at it, any good startup, what we have seen is that from as low as 5 lakhs to up to 1.5, funding is available by way of a combination of grant and seed support. It can come from any of these government agencies, as Professor mentioned, be it DST or Department of Biotechnology or Ministry of Electronics or Information Technology. Over and above that, I mean, through the incubator, we do have access to CSR funding, which is also made available to startups. This may come in way of grant amount. Further to that, I mean, as an incubator, we do have association with a lot of early stage VC funds and family houses, offices, and high net worth individual, which are also becomes part of. I mean, you can reach out to them through SINE relationship. Uh, from a early stage funding mechanism, yes, I mean there are still gaps. Uh, Once you are exhausted the government support which is available, or the early stage investment that is available, the VC comes in much later stage when you are closer to where you have the product market fit. And then it's early stage. I mean, we have around 100 VCs who are partners to us. We'll be able to connect them to you.
Yeah, just to
Sorry.
add to IDEX, like IDEX is basically Ministry of Defense related. So defense related ideas is what IDEX will deal with. MIT obviously is Information Technology and Communication Ministry.
Mhm.
So depending on the domain, you may have some additional support available apart from the common pool that you may have.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Shaji. I think next question is from Hishi himself, which I'll be taking, but also I'll add my part on it. Yeah, so it will be better to have it, although a part is already answered, but it's interesting. So, what are the current challenges of SINE? And just to add that current challenges, I would also like to ask that what are the possible reasons of whatever those 40 or 50 startups who might have closed from SINE. What do you think are the main key 2 or 3 reasons for that? And next part, which Hishi is asked, which is very important, that how can alumni help to the challenges that SINE is facing at the moment? Yeah.
So, like one of the problem is coming from the previous question that we asked, right? What is the support? So, as you know, startups require funding at an early stage. And since science focus is largely on the ideas which are product type ideas, right? Where a lot of iterations will have to happen, and that is where VCs don't come in early, especially on the deep tech side of it. This is something which we have been having the conversation. Even DST had a brainstorming session for deep tech startup policy, and this is where even VCs voiced this concern that we come in the game very late. The reason for that is we simply don't understand at a very early stage what is the visibility. So if government keeps funding ideas at an early stage, now you can imagine that government is doing a lot in this sense, but it cannot. I mean, no support is going to be enough at that stage. So any support which one can think of, and this is where this TRA idea, what some of the alumni are doing, or 96 batch, which has suggested that the corpus which is created will be supporting the startup ideas, right? So those kind of ideas become very, very important from the success of entrepreneurs at a very early stage, particularly. See, as the idea matures, the flow starts following. The funds start following. But at an early stage is where the challenges are. While we have our own programs, our own connects to bridge that gap, but the more the merrier, as they call it, right? So that support definitely is important. Mentorship support is where, to my mind, particularly the senior folks who have been in the industry for longish time, who can actually uh, work with some of the younger folks, that is perfectly fine. But from my point of view, where I come from, even with faculty members, right? Somebody who is our alumnus, faculty members may have more confidence in their input because we believe that some of our guys have based on the places that they have worked typically, right? And then they come back and want to work with startup, maybe that mentorship, because faculty members, they will be good with their subject, but not everybody will be good with the business side of it, at least to begin with. They will pick up the tricks of the trade as they go along, but having somebody uh, along with them will be something which can make a big difference. And especially if we want to bring deep tech ideas coming to the market at a faster clip, right? So that's where I personally believe that alumni coming on board, could make the difference. Of course, chemistry of people will have to be working out there, but I'm sure with alumni that challenge will be much lesser than otherwise, right? So
Okay.
that's a couple of things. Shaji, you want to add something further?
Yeah, so I the biggest, if you look at the challenge for SINE as of today, we have around 89 startups incubated with SINE as on date, and each of these startups are in different areas. We are in the sector agnostic incubator, and broadly you can segregate these startups into three buckets. One, those which are in the very early stage. The second lot will be largely on the product development. They will be going through a product development phase. And the third bucket would be somebody who is closer to revenue generating or already generating some amount of revenue. So requirement for these three bucket of startups are totally different. That's where we need a cross section of mentors to come in and help us across different domain. First, from a functional point of view, from an industry point of view. Second is that most important thing is that when a lot of our startups, even if they have a product market fit, opening doors or reaching out to potential customers is the biggest challenge. If some of the alumni can help our startups when they reach out to the right people within the customers that they intend to target, that would be very helpful. So that's the biggest thing. The second is maybe most of the times what happens is technology is also evolving very fast, and as an incubator we need to have a facility or infrastructure facility that could help our startups to build their prototypes, because largely we look at the hardware startups. So in that scenario, investment in capital equipments becomes a little more critical. So if those supports are available, I think that could cover. So basically, I would say funding, mentorship, and the capital infrastructure is something very important for us. And in fact, if we want to look at scale up our activity, maybe double in next 3 or 4 years, then the requirement increases manifold. So any help from the alumni, be it in terms of funding or be in terms of mentorship, giving their time to some of our startups or opening doors, would be very much welcome.
Great.
That's
Thanks.
very
Thanks for letting us
well.
know. Yeah.
Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, if
I
there
think
is a place where people can sign up, if there a person to contact, that would be awesome. We don't have to answer it here. We can share it in the WhatsApp group or in the chat. But the next question is from Raj Lee. His question is, are these IPs patented in India or internationally? He cites the cost of application to be more than $100,000 per program to file in few countries. So what happens with these IPs?
So if IP is from IIT Bombay, for example, IIT Bombay has a mechanism of supporting IPs. Most of the time, when the startup is formed, before that itself, IP will be filed, right? When the research happens in the lab, IP will be filed. The institute takes care of most of the costs involved. If it is Indian patent, if it is international patent, I think faculty member may have to defray part of the cost through the projects or funding which they might have raised. But the initial major chunk is taken care of from the institute side. When it comes to the startup, typically they can use the funding support what is provided, as a seed support or through various grants. They can use part of those funds to defray the cost of the patenting. Indian patents, to my knowledge, are not super expensive, but yeah, I'm aware that International patents in certain geographies could be very, very expensive. But that is something wherever the challenge of that type comes, we are able to, on a case-to-case basis, bring in intervention wherever it is required. But by and large, the support is managed, from the cost point of view. Like I said, the IIT Bombay takes care of IP if it is coming from there in most of the cases anyway.
Great. Thanks. I think we have like 10 more minutes, and I see there are a lot more questions. One question is from Ajit Das, where he's asking about a solid background in sciences like physics and chemistry, Professor Santosh, you have. So how basically it's helping with the startups. And it's very interesting for me is because we invited Professor Ram Gopal Rao, who was also a professor at IIT Bombay, and currently now he is the vice chancellor of BITS. And he was talking about that there should be a lot more
Yes, sir.
deep tech startups. And it's interesting because a lot of our alumni are having terrific background in sciences, engineering, technology. So how does it help, or it's not helping from your experiences with SINE? And Saji can add to it maybe later. Yeah.
Yeah. So from my perspective, like I said, right, I mean, this is administrative position when you start. But as you start interacting with people, you realize that it's not whether you are engineer or a science background person. Basically, you should be having the mindset of solving problems which come to your table typically, right? So from my perspective, I wouldn't really worry about it because from a chemistry background, what we are used to is solving complex problems, whatever comes to your table, by looking at it from first principle. So you don't focus so much on the solution directly, but you try to take steps ab initio, like from a first principle point of view. That's how you solve research problems many a times. And that when you take it, you actually end up helping the entrepreneur. And obviously, we are fortunate that the way the SINE is structured, we also have professionals doing their job, right? So Shaji is not a prof. Shaji is actually a CEO, which comes with the industry experience. Uh, I'll use a Gujarati phrase, right? When it comes to solving problem, we always say that "Jenu kam tene thai, bija kare so gota khai." So we let the expert do the job, right? Rather than me as a professor, I don't want to intervene on the business decision part of it. Of course, I want to understand it. What are the implications from the SINE point of view, from IIT point of view? But that's why we hire experts. Yes, Shaji, you want to add something?
No, sorry, I was interrupted.
Yeah.
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 So the question was more in terms of, I mean, are we facing challenges in supporting deep tech startup, or I mean, what was the?
No, this one was more about whether I'm doing the job properly or not. No, I come from science background and how that is helping the entrepreneurs. So to that, my answer was that we have expert team in SINE.
Right. No, I think we need a mix of everything. I mean, we need a tech kind of. I mean, any proposal that comes to SINE, right? I mean, it's also vetted from a tech point of view. How strong the tech is, how strong the IP is. So the engineering aspect, the manufacturing aspect, all comes into the picture. Then we kind of, I mean, review it from a business. How big is the market, or what type of market are we looking at? What is the scalability of those startups? So we need a mix of everything, be it from a finance, technology, management, to some extent, the industry kind of expertise and experience, that normally we kind of outsource it through our mentors and experts who are on our panel. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. Yes.
So the next set of questions from Aniruddha Nene and Shashank Patil, they're more like, they are, one of them is an alumni, the other one is already a serial entrepreneur, and they wanted to know if they can somehow, make use of SINE, or is it only for alumni and research that comes out of IIT Bombay?
No, we are
How can
welcome.
alumni welcome? Okay. And are there any places where they could go and see and start?
If I understood the question correctly, what you are saying is if somebody is not IIT Bombay alumnus, can he or she start a company in SINE? Is that the correct
It was
understanding?
more for alumni who's not a student, or can they participate with SINE and take their idea?
No, anyone can. Anybody who has a good technology-based idea. We are like what Shaji pointed out. We are more product-focused ideas. The reason is very simple, right? I mean, IIT Bombay today has huge infrastructure on research side of it. If you want to make full utilization of that, that is where the IIT Bombay's resources, whether it is facilities, whether it is technical expertise that is present with 750 faculty members, plus PhD students, plus master students, can be fully utilized. We believe that the product type of ideas is where more support is also needed, right? Whether it is mentorship, whether it is intervention from the business preposition point of view as well, right? So we believe that that is where the support is required, and anybody who has that idea, IIT Bombay or non-IIT Bombay, you can be coming from any college. Why that? Even somebody who would have done not necessarily or a college dropout even from engineering, and is working on some tech idea which is novel, which is having deep tech element, most welcome.
All right. So there are a couple of more questions. One interesting question that I see is from Abhay Kanwar from IIT Bombay 2015. And he wants to know that does SINE takes funding from its alumni on equity basis?
Funding from alumni on equity basis. So I'm not sure exactly how to interpret it. We do give funding support, to the startups beyond like the programs which I mentioned, right? The seed support typically is the investment support. Some support may be in the form of a grant. Some of our alumni which are working with SINE for providing support through the funding coming from them may go as equity investment in the startup. So I think that's what is the question probably. Then the answer is yes, the equity funding can be transferred to the startups.
Okay, thanks.
Sajay, anything to add?
Yeah, if I may add, if I understood the question, I mean, he's asking whether they can directly invest in startup. You can do that. I mean, any of our science startups, when they are fundraising, yeah, alumni can also kind of chip in if that's, I mean, if that's what, I mean, direct investment that if you are talking about. As Professor also said, you can provide grants to either SINE or to IIT Bombay, which in turn can be used for entrepreneurship and innovation. If it's been provided to IIT Bombay, naturally it will get transferred to SINE, and SINE is the implementation agency for it. And in lieu of that, either we provide this funding by way of grant. If it's by way of grant, we don't take any equity. If we kind of provide the funding in form of seed support, then we do take equity in our startups.
Thanks. I think that was what the question was about, funding to the startups and have a share of shares from the startup. And that's what the question was about. Okay, so yeah, I think it's the time. So maybe Rishi, final words from your end.
Well, I would like to finalize with my batchmate's question, Harshal Gunde. He's asking, we got some statistics of impact, but what about the jobs created? Is there a statistics on that because of SINE? Or do we have any number of job created kind of statistics?
So the slide did have a job created number, which was approximately 10,000 or so. But I'll tell you honestly, that number probably, if I'm not mistaken, I'll ask Shaji to correct me if I'm wrong. It's probably underreporting it. The number what I show there is based on the information I got from the startups. Even they graduate, we keep contact with them. keep asking them the data. And then you can imagine that, once you graduate, you're not as prompt in giving the data as you would be when you are incubated, right? So there is always a lag. But even with this lag, I would say that these numbers are actually going to be significantly upward. But I don't want to be exaggerating the numbers. I would rather report what is the last reported number that was. Where though informally, I kind of know that, when you have an atom bug in your portfolio, when you have an idea forge and then workshops, it's your guess that these numbers will be significantly upwards.
All right. Thanks a lot, Professor Santosh, Shaji, for your time. I think it was already a fantastic talk. There are a lot more questions coming. And my guess is that, Professor, some people might reach out to you for some kind of mentorship or, get also something that you. But what I'll do is I'll ask those slides from you and share it with the all the participants in the group. Usually these talks are also shared in the group as well. So maybe most of them do watch later, and they can come back to you, Shaji, or to you, Professor. I think that shouldn't be the problem. There was one email ID which you showed in the end of the slide. Probably they will write to that email ID, so probably that should not be a problem for either of you. So of course I don't share any of your personal IDs, but yeah, they know that if they can search your name, probably they'll find easily on LinkedIn or email ID or
Yeah.
whatever. So IIT Bombay alumni are very upfront. So just to let you
Yes.
know. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks a
absolutely.
lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks a
Thanks.
lot for
Now,
your
I'll be
time. It
happy
was
to
a
share.
fantastic talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share the slide deck on a WhatsApp, but I'm not sure if I'm part of that group. You just let me know and I'll put it in that group slide.
Yeah,
I
no,
already have it on
I'll
my
take it
WhatsApp.
from you and I'll share it
Perfect.
to the people.
Perfect.
It's
Perfect.
as simple as
Yeah.
that. Not complicating
Yeah.
your job. Don't worry.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was
Thanks,
wonderful chatting with you all.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
See you in the campus soon. See you in the campus soon. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look forward.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure.
Bye bye. Bye bye.